Chess friends, how are you? Today I am going to show you a thrilling chess game which is played between Berserk and me, where I showcased my 5000 elo rated brilliance and tactics against him. In this video I am going to show you some middle game strategies and tactics which can develop your mind to grow in chess. So let's get started without wasting any time. I started the game with e4, and you are gonna observe an astounding atmosphere in the Sicilian defense. Last day we saw e6. But Berserk here chooses a different approach. This d6 knight on c6, e5 or maybe e6. Black can also play the bishop fumetto in the king side and knight to f6, alright. And from the white's perspective he have the usual bishop c4, knight c3 and d4 move ideas. Okay, let me break the center with d4. Instead of capturing the pawn with my knight, I decided to go with my queen. Even though black can play knight f6 to hit the queen, which will meet up with bishop g5, pinning down the knight to the king, so first he played a6 to prevent any piece's activity in this square. And after a few moves we have queen e3. You may wonder why I put my queen on e3, well my goal is to strike in the center with e5, installing the rook on this d1 square to activate the rook in this half-open file where the bishop can come into the c4 square habitually. But Berserk seems more practical, who played b5 immediately, rather than typically develop his other pieces, so after a4, b4 and b3, I made a symmetrical pawn structure where I can plant my bishop on b2, activating the bishop in this diagonal, and play knight d2 followed by c4 to hit the d5 pawn apart from the rook on d1. This is my opening strategy to control over the central squares, alright. We have knight f6 and e5 from black. He committed his pawn structure assertorily. Now this d6 pawn becomes a permanent target and a backward pawn where the knight can aim him by playing knight c4, and as soon as I bring my rook on d1 it will create an unfavorable situation for you. Alright. We have bishop e2 and knight goes to c4, attacking to the malaria patient, and at the same time, he is threatening to go on b6, hitting the rook and the bishop. Furthermore, my knight will take away your sleep by dominating in the d5 square where the knight will be irresistible. After a couple moves we have castle, queen c7, bishop goes to d3, and he maneuvered his knight on d8, in order to play knight e6 followed by knight f4, where the knight will be super active there. Additionally, the bishop and knight are creating a join attack in the e4 square. For this reason I play knight h4. Now you may think of playing knight e6 to continue your plan. But you know what, my horse is faster than your dumb horse. Knight f5 will bring a massive metamorphosis in your position, and no matter what you will play except the best one you will be dead lost. For instance, you choose to play a4, then I will transfer my queen on b6. This queen b6 move is very tricky and manipulative. You can't just exchange the queens because I can take away your bishop on e7 with a check. Alright? And if you provoke to slide away your queen, just to ensure your bishop's safety, I can throw dust in your eyes by capturing the pawn on d6. This knight is very crafty. Even if you try to protect your position with your rook, bishop b5 will dominate your position by conquering your queen or rook. Nevertheless, your e5 pawn is under attack, and comprehensively, your position is completely over and decimated. So going back to the position, we saw knight e6 was a bad move, which is the reason why Berserk uses to play g6. This move does create a hole in the dark squares, but this move's main preparation is to prevent the knight from coming in f5. Some of you may consider of playing going to h6, rushing for an attack, but you know what, if you haven't prepared for the exam, you might fail the examination. Thus we can play knight takes e4, reducing your attack by capturing the knight, and the e4 knight is well protected by the bishop. So in this position, I arranged for the big plan and strike in the f-file with f4. First of all, the center is targeted by the three pieces, which is why you have to capture the pawn. After that, look at my powerful bishop, covering the most important diagonal from b2. This is a remarkable position for me. That is why I planted my bishop in this fumetto, by making this plausible structure. Because my strategy is beyond his thinking. First, you have to deal with this debilitated knight. How can you protect your king side? First he played knight e6, and after queen g6, your complete position is just incapacitated. Here I urge you to pause the video and find the best move for black. If you find any normal kind of logical move, your position will be over. For instance, knight f5 is coming, which is why some may think of playing king h8, well done, let me play queen f7, attacking to the knight with the two giants. You may think of playing queen d8 to safeguard the knight, but here comes rook c1 to enhance the pressure against the knight. Some may think of playing king g7, but here comes a stunning move, knight takes d6, attacking to the bishop, and nobody can take the knight, as it will create ruinous situation for the king. So after the bishop moves back, knight f5 check will follow. After you take the knight, another knight will come, king moves back, and I will eliminate your bishop, because now I have a gorgeous move which I waited for 5 minutes of this video. Bishop takes knight, forking the king and queen, and the game will be over soon. So now, let me tell you a quote about people. If they talk about other people with you, they will talk about you with other people. Going back, we seen the variation behind king h8, although king g7 similar to that. Now let's consider rook e8 move, which seems very natural and innocent. Here comes knight a5, attacking to the bishop, and after the bishop moves back, give him a check, and play rook to c1, and there is no way to protect the knight. In addition, the rook and the knight together attacking to the pawn radiologically, which is completely absurd for black. So going back to position, we have seen the movement of f8 rook. Now some of you may think of considering rook a to b8. Nonetheless, it's a dubious move, because knight f5 still attacks to the bishop, and you can anticipate the same tactical idea with your rook and bishop. Bishop moves back, rook c1 and d5, trying to exchange the queens, but I will show him middle finger by playing bishop e5, launching an attack to the queen and rook, and in a certain move I will play knight h6 check where the knight is still under attack, king g7, and the knight jumps into the d6 square right away, creating an enormous problematic situation for black. Queen c6, and I will sacrifice my rook on f6, because this can bring a complete paralyzation for black. After knight f5 check, bishop takes f6 will follow, which will lead into a checkmate. The game will be over for black. So back to the position, we have seen the variation behind rook b8. Now playing any typical queen move can lead the knight to consider knight g6, forking the queen and the rook. Even queen c8 can lead the same situation for black. So what should your black play now? I am asking you, you chips man. If you think of playing queen c5, then the same tactical motive will arrive after I play knight f5, hitting the bishop. After bishop moves, I will capture the d-pawn, bishop here to safeguard himself from the knight attack. Here comes knight h6 check, king g7, and look at my bishop, he is seizing the diagonal completely, and after I play a sweet knight check, the bishop joins at c4, taking control over the diagonal. Now some of you, 200 elo players, might consider to capture the knight, but here I will play the absolute cunning move rook takes d8. The idea is very simple, like my hair, take the knight with my bishop and checkmate you. The game will be over. So here, some of you, especially the higher rated players, might think of playing queen g6 to protect the bishop, but still I can demolish your position by capturing the bishop, because after that, knight d6 is making a wide strategy to take away your pawn, and believe me or not, this is dead lost situation for you. For instance, you play queen e7, here comes rook c1, attacking to the knight by the join attack of the bishop, and there is no way to protect your position at all. I shared all the middle game's prep and strategies with you. We saw the variation behind queen c5, both the idiotic rook moves. Even if you slide the bishops, it can create the same situation for you. Now, let me guess, some of you might think of playing h5, but it's a completely rubbish move. Can you find the reason why? If you say, hey Stockfish, I can capture the pawn without hesitation, then you are absolutely right, because after the queen check on g6, your king is in a complete terrible condition. You may block the check with the knight, but no worries when Stockfish is here. Reposition your knight to increase the pressure against this. Alright. We have queen c5, knight f5 and rook to f7 in order to protect the knight, but here comes our cunning move knight h7 check. King can't go in f8 as it will be checkmate in one move, and if the king goes there, I can take away your rook, forcing the king to move, give him a check again like a cubic puzzle. And take away the knight on f6 with your bishop. Look, this is a complete devastation for you, overwhelming your king side with queen and knight. Going back to the position, we have analyzed almost every variation of this position. Everything is a bad move unless you find the best one. Berserk is a 4000 rated guy who played d5, which is the best move. It offers an exchange and at the same time, it attacks to the knight. So first of all, playing knight to e4 in order to block the attack, wouldn't solve your issue as he can block the bishop diagonal with d4, the bishop will be disconnected from the diagonal so all the king side attacks will be drained up. So this position, I find the best move bishop to e5, danger level. Bishop can't block the attack and additionally, you can't slide your queen right away because knight b6 is standing there, and if you attempt to move up the queen, knight f5 will come with the same strategy which I discussed in the previous variation. Bishop moves back, and now let me capture your pawn, attacking to the queen and the knight. How can you save both of them in the same time? You are not a time traveler. Let's say you play knight takes d5, then I can slap black with my shoes, knight h6 check which will be a mate. Going back, if you dare to capture the pawn with your queen, my knight will re-rotate it himself to attack on your queen. Queen moves back and here comes the knight. Here comes the rook too, attacking to your idiot knight which appears as a donkey. Some of you may think of capturing the knight, but that will obliterate your position as I can capture your knight. Bishop captures knight check and in a sudden move it will be checkmated by the bishop and knight. What a tragic checkmate. Don't cry when Stockfish is here. Let me tell you a quote about life. Trust the process and it will take you to places you never knew you would go to. So in this position, we discussed the variation behind queen c6. Let's say black plays queen c5, well, I can even jump my knight into the d6 place, where the bishop and queen are aligned there to launch an attack through this diagonal. Another greater move that you can consider is to play e takes d5 followed by bishop takes pawn knight f5, attacking to the bishop and threatening knight h6 for a check apart from the bishop. Actually it all started after you played g6, this g6 move brings a massive problematic situation for you. Bishop moves back and after a sudden move, I will consider to play knight g6, attacking to the donkey, h5 rook c1, sacrificing the knight, in order to bring the queen on h4, targeting at the knight and some of you may consider rook h8, now it's completely over for you as I can take away your knight, and give you a check and mate in the f7 square. The game will be over in the middle game, alright. Going back to the position, we have seen the both queen moves are wrong and erroneous. Nevertheless, no matter where the queen will go, the situation of your position will be dramatically terminate. So Berserk finds the best move, d takes c4, sacrificing the queen right away. You sacrificed your queen, let me take it for free. No, it's not free, he pick up my two pieces, and now if you dare to capture the pawn with your rook. Black and play the reasonable move knight takes e4, the plan is to attack on the queen, attack on the knight and the bishop on c7 as well. The queen has no right square to safeguard both of his pieces. This is a deficiency of your position, so I decided to capture the pawn with my c-pawn, to connect the two dots. Here comes knight h5, attacking to the queen, and again the queen have no ethical square to protect both of his pieces. I have to lose something, so I decided to give up my queen like him, knight take g6. Now some of you may become greedy, and capture my queen without any hesitation. I will kill your bishop first, then your knight, and look at this position, analyze it. I have two extra pawns, which is enough to win the endgame. Alright. Going back, he calculated this position exceptionally, and captured the knight, which is the best sequence to go with, and after some moves, my strategy provokes to rush in the king's side by advancing my b and the pawns, which can create a delicious position for me. Alright, do you get it? First he did bishop exchanges, and we have queen to d6, advancing the E and D pawns in center, I pick up the B pawn, and after a couple moves later, we have queen d6 rook b2 bishop back to c7, we are slowly progressing in the game, and you can see that, by playing queen on f6, I am focusing on pushing the g and h pawns, where I can involve the rook on h2 to deliver a tragic attack in the king side, because this is queenless endgame for black. After a couple of moves later, we have queen h4 and rook c5, constructing an attack to the black. Alright, we are progressing through the game, and don't ask me for endgame strategies, it is not very hard to understand, you have to keep safe the black king, construct your piece's position in a healthy combination, but here after I play rook c8, I am forming an attack to the h8 square, now how can you deal with that? He tried to combine his force with knight e6, but after e4, you cannot capture the pawn since the knight is under attack, and also you cannot take the pawn with your rook, because after capture, your rook will be under fired, and if you dare to take the rook with you will lose your knight. So a very tactical and well-designed move by me, we have a5 rook a8 and after a check I picked up the pawn. We are going through the game, thundering into the black's position, pushing the a-pawn, I am trying to promote my outside pass pawn, we did a rook exchanges. And after a couple of moves later, I take away his knight, I connected my two pawns, now it is impossible for him to prevent the pawn promotion and save his game, I promoted into a new queen and I have 3 queens on the board, and checkmate. So what a wonderful game, I really like the game and made a beautiful presentation to you. If you enjoyed and learned something new from my content, then don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and you can watch my other videos as well right beside in the screen, so wish you all the best, bye bye see ya.